Hello, my name is David Michalski. I'm a librarian here in the Research Services Department, and I work with the Social and Cultural Studies departments on campus. I'm here today to show some books, recommend some books for Black History Month that we have available here in the library. It was a very tough choice for me how to approach this. Our collections are very deep in ethnic studies and Black history. We have data sets, encyclopedias, special collections material, and obviously a lot of the classics and the canons of the field. My choices today were basically the newer books and showing you off a little bit of the breadth of what's available for people that want to really get into understanding Black History Month, why we have it, and the deep and rich social life and culture of African Americans. So my background is in sociology, so I kind of came of age in a time when sociology was changing a lot and being really challenged and to be thinking anew about what it meant. So I began to think about what books do we have in sociology that show African American history, and I could really just look on campus. We have professors here doing this kind of work, innovative work, and students being challenged by it. One professor we have in the sociology department is Orly, Clerge, and she just has this new book out called The New Noir, Race, Identity, and Diaspora in Black Suburbia. This is an important book because it presents both new knowledge to the field and it provides new theoretical outlook into how you might study the African American population in the United States. This book is particularly looking at Black Suburbia around New York State, basically in Queens and Long Island, and it's looking at different populations, African American populations, Haitian American populations, and Jamaican Americans. And the way that she approached this was to do ethnographic work and to situate it in historical work. And she brings up, really melds together the data and the individual stories. She interviews over 80 families and puts together in this wonderful creation for a sociology book. You can see that she weaves together both the qualitative and quantitative work very nicely. And one thing that you might note about it is when you're reading it, is that she situates it sort of around food and the dinner table as well. Some of the big findings in this book are, that you have to understand the patterns of immigration and family stories to understand the experience. So, and also the way race was considered, or racial formations formed in different historical places. Haiti compared to Jamaica compared to the United States. So it's a wonderful introduction into the complexity of the African American population just in New York City and Black Suburbia, and it's got a lot of awards, this book. So it's available for you on the shelf, as well as these others. And also another professor on campus, just recently, I think emeritus, is Halifu Osumare. And Halifu Osumare taught for a long time in our African and African American Studies department. Was a student favorite from what I heard from students. And she would study music and transnational adoption of musical trends, from Africa to United States. She has a book about Ghana hip hop. I believe that she's just music. I didn't know this at the time, but now I know that her sociological ethnomusicology career was a second career, and her first career was as a dancer. And this is a scholarly memoir about her dancing career, and in it, it's really rich life of dancing that she has. She's met the famous modern dances, the people that were really understanding Black American dance, or discovering what Black American dance could mean, both high culture and some of the finest productions, and also just in the coming from the people as well. So I think this is if you want to understand Black dance, this is a great source because it's written by someone that was a choreographer and a practitioner, and then she's able to really put together the theory or dance theory together with this. all the while trying to figure out what it means, Blackness, especially when it's put together with this field of dance. One other thing I want to say about this book is that it's a scholarly memoir, like I said, and it's really a great way to understand the experience when you look at someone's life. Many African American studies books that we have on the shelves are memoirs, and great writing, but it gives really an intimate portrait of life experiences. So I think this is a nice one to pick up that's current for that. Here's a biography, not an autobiography, of Romare Bearden. It's by Mary Schmidt Campbell, and it's called An American Odyssey, the life and work of Romare Bearden, who is a famous painter associated with the Harlem Renaissance. He was born 1912, I believe, and then died in 1988. He's famous for putting together these rich sort of collages of life, the way he saw it. And just like the book on dance, we can understand sociology from the arts as well, and from memoirs, and that's what I think you're seeing in these books. One thing I learned about Romare Bearden was that he worked in New York City in social welfare office, visiting different houses, and really saw the diversity of people in New York, and that inspired his art. So there's many ways to understand society, but Romare Bearden shows us that you can do it through artwork, sort of through compassion of these understanding of people, and you can use what you learn on the streets to understand what society is about. So I really love this book. I've always been a big fan of Romare Bearden, but this is a really good biography, comprehensive biography. He also shows, one other thing about here is his work as a political cartoonist, which I didn't really know about before either. And that's sort of, it shows that he was very much involved with the civil rights struggle and a fellow traveler for the beginnings of the civil rights movement while he was doing his artwork. The next book is it's a little bit different. This one's called Slavery in the Age of Memory, Engaging the Past by Lucia Araujo, a historian, an American historian. And she's put this together. It's really about how we think about Black history and the history of slavery and how it's remembered. And we can see in today's news that people are fighting over monuments and how we remember things in the past. This is a book by someone that studies that and about what is public history, what is cultural history, what is collective memory, how is it formed. And she sees in these monuments really a continuing struggle with sort of white supremacy and how we remember the past as a political thing. So this book is really, if you're interested in museum studies, if you're interested in understanding how histories are made in the public, this is a great book to look at. She'll be, if you go through the pages, you'll see critiques of different museum displays over time, how people are struggling with this history, including well-known museums like the Museum of Slavery in Liverpool, or our own Smithsonian African American Museum of History and Culture. But also, she gets into, at the end, how artists in different settings are looking at slavery. And one of the great contributions of this book is its comparative character. So she looks at the history of slavery in Brazil, in the Caribbean, and the United States together. So you can remember this is a worldwide situation. Black History Month is about the worldwide history as well, and this book will help you to study that. The last two books I have here are a little bit different. Maybe you wouldn't think of these as sort of Black history books because they're about sort of what's going on now in the world. So this Black Landscapes Matter by Walter Hood and Grace Mitchell Tada is a wonderful book that shows how Black history, our understanding of Black history and social life and culture can influence how we think about landscapes. So we have a large landscape landscape studies departments here at UC Davis, and actually Walter Hood works at UC Berkeley as a professor there. And this is an edited collection where people ask, why do Black landscapes matter? What are they? And how do we develop new participatory sort of landscapes for disenfranchised places around cities and across the country? So it's got a few theoretical pieces in there that really talk about some of the same issues as the book about slavery and memory. How do we commemorate? How do we activate the past to make a better future through the use of space? And then there's great examples too of parks. Some of them are here in California. So this is a very interesting kind of take on Black History Month, I think. And then the last one, maybe even going a little bit beyond that, is called A Billion Black Anthropocenes or None. So the Anthropocene is a geological concept that kind of stated that this is a time period in Earth's history that was affected by human beings. People use it to theorize things about climate change and stuff. But this book is critical of a lot of geological concepts like that. And it tries to say, like, sometimes even in these sciences that look like they're apolitical or have nothing to do with social and cultural life, you will still see the legacy of oppressive systems like slavery in them. So it's trying to take a look at what we would think is a normal kind of science and look at it and deconstruct it and seeing if things like geology have an extractive sort of colonial character to them, and how do we rethink about them by understanding Black history to understand what geology could be, how it might change. So very kind of a difficult book to read, but I always tell students if they have a difficult book, there's always another book in the library that can help you read that book, you know, getting through the definitions of concepts and things. So it's kind of a diverse group of books here, but I think I wanted to show that we have so many different kinds of books in the library that you don't want to be limited to one stereotype of a kind of conception, and use the library to explore all the different angles that you can.